you have to understand what's your strategy. If you're just looking to, to offload a few products, then you don't need, a partner. You could just go ahead and list it. But if you're looking to make this as a business, you have to have the right partner.
So let's get started with the first question. Just kind of give us that background for the novice. What is the secondary marketplace and the re-commerce marketplace, and who are the major players in it?
So a secondary marketplace, or re-commerce, however you call it, is basically a marketplace where that item will resell a second time. So if you want to dumb it down, think about the item selling, the first time, either at a retail store or an online store, and then something happens to that product and it's resold on the secondary markets. If you think of the big players today on the secondary market, to name a few, we can, eBay, Amazon, Walmart Marketplace. These are probably the three bigger ones at the moment.
And in terms of its evolution, how would you describe that, from where it started to where it is today, and who's using it?
I get that question asked a lot. I think there's more interest now in these marketplaces just because it's also an easy way to compare items for multiple sellers, the same item, versus going to, if you're comparing one item from, let's say, one retailer, want to compare the price to another retailer, then you have to, visit those two sites back and forth. As when you're on a marketplace, you basically see all the sellers there. So what happens is that all these sellers are competing to get their product sold, which means in return for the consumer a better price. So it's just, there's a lot of transparency there.
Is it still advantageous for resellers to get on there, or have big brands really taken over the secondary market?
So it's funny because you don't have the big brands, not all of them have adopted the secondary market. Some of them are still on the fence and think that, they don't want to be on these marketplaces. What they don't realize is that if you don't sell your product yourself on that marketplace using, the right partner, it will still end up on that marketplace, whether you like it or not, right? I mean, there's room for everybody, right? But of course, I'd say, an OEM or retailer with the right, coupled with the right partner, could do great on these secondary marketplaces just because of the way the product is sold.
So you've alluded to some of the benefits, but if you could explain maybe in your own words, why does GoTRG utilize the secondary market for its client?
So we touch, every possible category. Now, not all of these secondary markets are good for every category, right? So you may have categories that will do better, on this marketplace versus another marketplace. You may have, items that are more popular on one marketplace versus the other, or you may have one that sells for more than another. So we utilize all these marketplaces in order to be able to give our clients the highest recovery. We integrate with different marketplaces to be able to, to help our clients get the highest recovery based on the category, but also make sure that we reach the velocity that we're looking for and the product is moving. You don't have time to, to keep the product. So each one of these marketplaces has their pros and cons, and we use them, in advantage for our client.
So over the years, what has GoTRG and you personally learned from trial and error in terms of the best strategy?
So it's important to note the difference with, we do e-commerce, right? But we don't only do e-commerce, we do the full end-to-end solution, right? So we handle the return, we touch the product, and then we disposition the product. So we're kind of familiar or, intimate with the product from the start, the point of return, till we find it a new home, which is really important because we treat the product differently. We have data to help us make better decisions. It's not just taking the product and listing it on the marketplace. There's a lot of, business intelligence here. There's a lot of decisions that we do, a lot of things that we've learned, from our mistakes in the past. Yes, we have learned, right? And we keep learning. And that's what I think it's, when you use the right partner, you get all of that experience included with your solution versus just, listing. And it could become costly. If you don't know what you're doing, marketing wise, spending marketing dollars on these marketplaces, fraud mitigation, it could, I know a lot of sellers that have started selling online and stopped just because it was a bad experience to start with, and they think that it's like that all the time.
Absolutely. I think you alluded to this a little bit earlier, but how do manufacturers generally feel about their products being sold in the secondary marketplace? And have you seen their position shift over time?
If you just, straight up ask them, hey, do you want your product on these marketplaces? The answer is going to be no, right? Of course, the answer is going to be no. But if you ask them, do you have a choice? Can you stop this? And the answer is no as well, right? They can't stop this. We've seen throughout all the years where some, manufacturers were completely against it. We would talk to them and say, hey, this is a strategy. We're going to put your product, on these marketplaces. And, it was no, 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 no. It was a straight no. And again, they understand, and then they come to realize that if they're not the ones doing it, somebody else is going to be doing it. They do realize they're more receptive, and more and more they're wanting to get on these marketplaces. The only barrier of entry is they don't have the right partner, or they don't know how to get started, right? It's easy to say, yes, I want to sell my returns as an example, or my distressed inventory on a secondary marketplace, but you need to have the right solution.
Interesting. So is there anything else you can think of regarding strategy or evolution of the secondary marketplace?
If you want to play in the game of secondary markets, you're going to have to adapt to these rules, which are you're going to have to have the right price, you're going to have the right description, you're going to have the right return policy and warranty, and you have to have a solution in place in order to handle those returns. Because of course, if it's free returns, if you sell a lot, you're going to get a lot of returns. If you don't sell a lot, you're not going to have a lot of returns. But again, everybody's goal is to sell a lot. Nobody goes on a marketplace and says, I only want to sell a few. But again, you have to understand what's your strategy. If you're just looking to, to offload a few products, then you don't need, a partner. You can just go ahead and list it. But if you're looking to make this as a business, you have to have the right partner. A lot of these businesses, these secondary marketplaces, account for 95% of their revenue, right? eBay, Amazon, Walmart, that's all they do. They just sell online because you don't need to have a brick and mortar store. You can be selling online, and that's where we're heading anyways, right? E-commerce is booming, so everybody's benefiting from these marketplaces.